a power to indict. Those are awesome powers. And so you don't want that to end up in the wrong hands.
Absolutely. Now, recently, Governor Blagojevich had trimmed $5.5 million, I believe it was, off of the state budget that would have gone to like help people with wrongful convictions. How do you think that those cuts are going to affect your job in particular?
Well, you know, we have worked very hard on old cases that sometimes when there is the allegation or the complaint that perhaps the wrong person was convicted. Through our DNA unit now, which is a grant, again, these are monies that we hope stay in place so we can continue to look at these old cases. And we have found out several times where the DNA matches a different offender, and so we have done the right thing, and we've you know, nollied what we call it, which is dismissed the case against the person who was wrongfully convicted. No one wants to convict the wrong person, particularly prosecutors. You want justice to be done for the victim, and so you want to get the wrong person. I'm sorry, the right person. That was a slat. But you want to get the right person, and you want to be able to have the monies to do that if in fact you need to do something like DNA workup.
Right.
So we want to make sure that that unit stays intact and that we can continue to do that.
Absolutely. You come on. So will the DNA evidence be less available, more available with these cuts?
Well, no, I don't think those cuts in particular will affect us. We should be able to do it, and we will continue to do it and look at cases because the DNA has been helpful to us.
Certainly. Now, one of the things that has a lot of Chicagoans concerned is crime. Obviously, on the streets, it's been a very violent summer in Chicago, but also some of the crime that's being committed by some city officials. Your opponent has indicated that he will go strongly after, you know, some of the corruption coming from City Hall and the daily administration specifically. If you find that there is smoke coming from there and that may lead to a fire, will you aggressively target them as well? Any corruption that may come from Mayor Daley's office?
Corruption is a problem, and it always will be a problem. And it's something that, yes, we're going to continue to aggressively look at. I'm the only person in this race that has actually tried and convicted corrupt police officers. I supervise our public integrity unit, and I've not only charged corrupt police officers, but also city employees, county employees, and sheriffs who have abused their badge. So this is a unit that I have personal knowledge with. It's something that we will continue to do wherever it goes, you know, wherever it goes. And again, it goes back to making the right decisions and following the evidence and being proactive in those types of crimes.
Absolutely.
I promised you today that I would.
Absolutely.
And we have corruption across all three branches of government, judicial, executive, and legislative.
Absolutely.
And I can only point to the Greylord judicial scandal where 14 judges were indicted and convicted and sent to jail who were fixing murder cases and taking money as bribes to fix other cases. At the city level, we have had a hired truck scandal. We had a hiring scandal. We have had heroin sold from the water filtration plant. We have had Whitney City Maintenance, where Mr. Duff posed. Here's a 300-pound Irish guy posing as an African American woman and getting $100 million worth of city contracts. We have the mayor's son getting the sewer inspector contract. We have numerous coordinated criminal activity that is being financed by taxpayer dollars. And the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city, and I think he needs to be held responsible. The president of the county board is the chief executive officer of the county government. He needs to be, or she needs to be, held responsible. The governor needs to be responsible at the state level. Sure. So I would follow the law and the facts, and no one has a monopoly on virtue.
Absolutely.
And we certainly have a Republican governor, George Ryan, in jail as well. So it's not a question of Democrat, Republican. Right. It's a question about those who believe in good, clean, honest, transparent government that serves the citizens, and those who don't. And if you use taxpayer monies to enrich yourself or your political donors or your political operation, you should be investigated, indicted, and held accountable. And that doesn't prohibit the prosecutor from examining any level, city, county, or state.
One of the things that's come up, like, and I'm not sure how much your office can do about this, but an issue that's like been really significant to a lot of Chicagoans in particular is the issues with immigration, illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. What role will your office be able to play in that, and like, what type of stance will you take to be able to, enforce the law, but also perhaps show a little bit more sensitivity than we've seen in some instances in this debate?
Well, I believe that, well, I know that the laws of immigration are federal laws.
Right.
And so it's the federal government that, in fact, are the ones that are going to be implementing them, and those are the ones that are going to be handling if there's a violation of an immigration law. And that's really not our area. But overall, I mean, if we have a victim who, unfortunately, may not be documented, we are still going to give our services to that victim. If they are the victim of a crime, they deserve to be treated with humanity as everyone else, whether they're documented or not. And so that is something that we will continue to do. As far as offenders, if there are offenders committing crimes and they've been convicted, usually what happens, it's the federal government will in fact implement the immigration laws for deportation and that sort of thing. So it's something that we are aware of, but aggressively that is really the job of the United States Attorney's Office.
Certainly. Something also that's like is a federal law, but definitely has had an impact locally, and there's been some debates over this, are the gun laws in regards to Chicago. Mr. Peraica is very much in favor, a strong protector of the Second Amendment. What's your stance on, on gun control, particularly as it relates to, Chicagoland, where obviously most of us recognize, the right to bear arms, but we're getting to a crisis level here locally. So what kind of steps would you be able to take as state's attorney to try and curb this problem while also protecting people's right to bear arms?
Right. 22 years in the state's attorney's office, I've seen so much violence, and I've seen so many young kids their lives being cut short because of gang violence, because of guns. I think we need to stay on top of the gun laws. We need to stay strong on the gun laws. The recent Supreme Court decision, I believe, makes it a little harder for law enforcement to do their job. I think we need to focus on trying to get those straw purchasers, get those people who are supplying the guns to the kids on the street and who are causing the shootings. I think what's important is that we stay tough on gun laws. I don't believe, like my opponent believes, that more guns equal less crime. I don't believe that. I don't believe in concealed carry. I don't. And I believe that there should be a ban on assault weapons. And I think we've seen way too much, particularly this summer in the city of Chicago, young lives being taken away with this gang violence and gun violence, and we need to stay on top of it.
It is a very complicated question, but let me try to answer it this way. We have to look at the causes of violence and the reason for this murder spree that is breaking all records here in 2008. And I believe there are essentially three reasons for that. Number one is the disintegration of the nuclear family.
Absolutely.
We don't have parents, mother and father, taking care of their children and raising them in a loving family environment. I strongly disagree with...
You can be careful. You get your genitals cut off for that kind of comment. But go ahead.
I strongly disagree. I strongly disagree with Hillary Clinton, for example, who says that it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes two loving parents caring for that child day to day until they die.
But aren't you, just an aside track, aren't you kind of a product of that philosophy on some ways with your situation coming to the States?
But I had a loving family, even though I lost my parents by the time I was 11 years old. I had an older sister who was 7 years older. I had my aunt and my uncle. I had an extended family who took me in and cared for me and loved me and provided for me when I couldn't for myself. And of course, I did my part. I exercised individual responsibility to do what I can. So a loving family unit, and particularly we shouldn't have government programs that take away from them. If you have a single mother with children, she should not be disqualified if she has a male in the house from getting cash assistance, stamps, food stamps, Section 8 vouchers or credits. Those should be given, and we should encourage people to form family units and raise children in that family environment. Second, we need to have a functioning educational system. Chicago public school system spends $6 billion a year. Half